On 31st October 1976, two police officers make their way over to the Joshi bungalow. Now, the family living in this bungalow, the Joshi family, consists of Achyut Joshi, his wife Usha Joshi, and their son Anand Joshi, have not been seen by their neighbors in 2+ days, and so out of concern, they ask these officers to do a welfare check on them. And as soon as these officers are inside the house, they immediately find the whole family dead in their living room. There's this very strange smell surrounding the whole house, and all three of these bodies have a blue nylon rope tied tightly around their neck. So, that is definitely the murder weapon. The police find that all of the valuables in the house, the money, the jewelry, even Ushaji's Mangal Sutra, are all stolen. And another thing is that while Achutji and Ushaji were still completely dressed, their son Anand was completely stripped naked. And now the police, they don't have any leads, so they collect all of the evidence that they can and they send it to the forensics. But they don't find any leads. And what these police officers don't know yet is that this case was the beginning of nearly a year long torment for the city of Pune. Hey everyone, I'm Rashi, and today we are talking about the Joshi Abhyankar murders from Pune, Maharashtra. And the thing is, I feel like there are so many Indian serial killers that are not talked about enough. And so in this series, we are going to talk about the infamous or the forgotten serial killers from India. And if you know anyone of these killers or their stories, then make sure to let me know in the comments and subscribe. Okay, let's talk about the story. So, after the Joshi family is discovered, the police start investigating. And their guess is this is an inside job. Like one of the relatives killed this family for their money. And so they start investigating around the family. They're asking all the people, the neighbors, the relatives, but nobody knows why anyone would want this family dead. Like these are really nice people, right? And so they have no leads, and nearly a month passes, and on 22nd November of that year there's a robbery attempt at a different location. Now the owner of this house is Yashomati Bafana, and she tells the cops there were four masked men who broke into her home and they tried to steal valuables, but her guards and her family members were all awake, and so they managed to fight these people off. And another thing that Yashomati ji told the cops was that out of these four people, three kept calling this one dude boss. And so that is all the lead that they get for now. And the police, they're not linking these two cases to each other yet. Like, in their opinion, the Joshi family murder was an inside job, and this case is like a failed robbery attempt, right? And so they start investigating both of these cases separately, but again, they just find nothing. And while all this is happening, a young man named Rajendra Jakal routinely keeps following up with the police. Now, the thing is, Rajendra's friend Prakash had gone missing in January of that year, but the police just refused to look for him, right? So, what happened is, in January, Prakash wrote a letter to his father saying that he was fed up of the way they were living, he wanted a different life, and he needed 1 lakh rupees. And he signed off on that letter and he sent it to his father. Like, he didn't give it to him face to face. He sent it to him, and then he was just never seen again. And so his father came to the police department because he was suspicious of this letter for a very particular reason that we'll talk about in a bit. And he told the cops that his son would never leave their family behind, but the cops just refused to listen because this is a grown adult who has left on his own accord. And so why do we need to look for him? He left because he wanted to, right? And the Prakash's father, he's an old guy, so he can't keep following up. And so Rajendra takes up that job, and routinely he comes to the police station and he asks if they even try to look for Prakash anymore, but the police just don't. They're just not looking for him. And so, nearly 2 weeks after this robbery attempt at the Yashomati Bafana bungalow, there is another murder. And this time, the victim is the Abhyankar family, consisting of a very renowned Sanskrit scholar, Kashinath Shastri Abhyankar, his wife Indirabai Abhyankar, their grandchildren Dhananjay and Jui. And on the time of this murder, the housemaid Sakubai, she was also present in the house. And so all these people, they are found dead in the Bhyankar bungalow. And very similar to the Joshi bungalow, all the valuables were missing. All the bodies had that same blue nylon rope around their necks. And just like Anand in the previous case, Jui was completely stripped naked, although in both the cases there were no signs of physical assault on either of this person. And now again, the police, they don't know anything about this case yet. They just know that this murder is definitely related to the Joshi murder. They collect the evidence, they send it to forensics, but you have to realize that forensics in this 1976, they're just not as advanced as they are currently. And so again, they don't find anything and there are no fingerprints. And so again, both of these cases, they turn cold because the police, they can't find any leads. Months pass and there's no sign of Prakash yet, and neither have any of the killers from these cases been caught. But all of that changes in March of 1977. So what happens is on 24th March, the police officers, they get a call that there's a body floating in the Mula Mutha river. And so they make their way over there and they find this body, they bring it out, and on this body they find these two distinct clues that finally give them the lead that they'd been looking for so long. The first thing they find is the same blue nylon rope around his neck, and it had a very similar knot to the one in the Joshi case and the Abhyankar family case. And so the police immediately realized that this guy's killer or killers are the same who killed the Joshi and the Abhyankar family. And the next thing that they find is an ID card. So they find that this man's name is Anil Gokhale and he was a student at Abhinav Kala Mahavidyalaya, which was a college for commerce students. And so one of the officers on this case, he's like, I've heard that name before. They go back to the station, they go through the files, and they found out that Prakash Hegde used to go to the exact same college. And so now this is a lead to them because suddenly all of these cases are linked to each other. Prakash and Anil used to go to the same college. Anil and Joshiji's family and Abhyankar family, they're all killed in the exact same manner. And so there's definitely a connection there. And so the only lead they have is this college. So the police officers, they make their way over to the Abhinav Kala Mahavidyalaya and they start asking questions about Anil Gokhale and Prakash Hegde. And they find these two people, these two students who are just overtly nervous, right? Like they are not nervous in a sense that, oh my god, there's police on my campus. No, they are nervous in a sense where they're trying to avoid eye contact and they're trying to get off the college campus before these guys can like get up to them. And the names of these two people are Satish Gore and Suhas Chandak. And so on a hunch, the officers, they arrest these two, they bring them to the station to question them about why they're behaving this way. And almost under no pressure, the two of them crack. They are like, we'll tell you who the murderer is, just don't harm us, don't tell our families. And so the police officers, they're like, fine, who are the murderers? And these two, they give them the name, they give these police officers the name of the killer and his associates. And it is just so shocking to them that initially they don't even believe these guys. And they're like, are you lying to us? And they're like, no, it's 100% them. I know, I have participated in one of the murders. And so the police officers, they immediately go and arrest these people and they bring them to the station. Now, the people involved in the serial killing murder gang were Dilip Sutar, Shantaram Jagtap, Munawar Shah. These were the three associates. And the leader of this group was Rajendra Jakal, the same man who routinely came to the police station to ask about Prakash. And the story goes, these four, they are middle class, like they belong to the middle class family, and they don't have enough money and they go to this college, but they don't want to study. They want to party, they want alcohol, they want women. And so what they do is they use up all the money their parents gave them for books and whatnot, and they realize they need more. So they start stealing bicycles and scooter parts and they sell them to make money. But Rajendra realizes that this money is nowhere near enough for them, and so they decide that they're gonna start kidnapping and taking ransom from fellow student families. And once they kidnap and they get the ransom, they'll just kill the person. No witnesses left. And so their first victim happened to be Prakash Hegde. With the help of Suhas Chandak, Rajendra managed to get Prakash in an isolated area where Rajendra and his associates tied him up and then they made him write this ransom letter. And the detail I mentioned earlier, the one that made Prakash's father think that this was not a letter from his son, was that every time Prakash wrote a letter or notes, he would sign it off with the name Devdas. But on this ransom letter, instead of writing Devdas, he wrote his actual name, Prakash Hegde. And so his father is like, he was definitely being forced. He did not write this on his own, but the police just didn't take the case seriously. And so the first victim was Prakash Hegde. Once they had kidnapped him, they got nervous that, they'll get caught. And so before even sending the ransom letter out, they murdered him, they put him in a drum and they pushed the drum in the Peshwa Park Lake. And while they were doing this, there was a beggar there who saw Rajendra. He saw Rajendra's face, he saw the other three people, and he told the police that, he saw these people pushing a drum in the Peshwa Park Lake, but the police just didn't take him seriously in that moment. And so when the police went to this lake, they discovered the drum, and inside was Prakash Hegde, and he'd been dead for over a year at this point. Then after Prakash's death, these four people, they were so scared that they ran away to Kolhapur, and they stayed there for months. And it's said that even there they were planning to do a robbery, but then the house that they wanted to loot was in the middle of this very crowded neighborhood, and the owner of the house was this very well built man, like very jacked, and so they just didn't dare go in his house. And once they came back to Pune, they restarted their crime spree by killing the Joshi family. Once they were done with that, they tried to do the same thing with the Bafana family, except this time the guards managed to fight them off. And once that failed, they knew they didn't have money, and so just 2 weeks later, they attacked the Abhyankar family, and this time they succeeded. Now, when the police asked them why they would strip one of their victims in every case, they told them that they did it so that the victim wouldn't run out and call for help, right? And so these people, Anand and Juhi, they're in this very vulnerable state in front of these people, and they're thinking that if they just give them whatever they want, then maybe they'll let them live. But they didn't. They killed both of them. And when asked about the very strange smell surrounding the house every time, they told the police that they would carry a very special perfume with them that they would spray around the house before leaving so that the police dogs couldn't identify them. Now, after these four were arrested, the body of Prakash, it was recovered, it was given to the family, and Pune could finally breathe again, right? Because these people were behind the bars, and their case was taken to the Pune civil court that ordered all four of them to be hanged till death. But they reappealed to this decision in the Mumbai High Court, saying that they do not want to be hanged. They do not wish to be hanged because it would just be too painful, and that they would rather be electrocuted by the electric chair. And so the Mumbai High Court, it obviously turned down their appeal, and so they reappealed the same thing in the Supreme Court. And while this case was going on, a bunch of doctors, they testified and they signed a document stating that hanging to death was the least painful way of dying. And so the Supreme Court also held up Pune Civil Court's decision, and nearly 6 years after these four criminals were caught, they were finally hung till death. And it is said that on the day of their death, people in Pune celebrated by bursting firecrackers because they could finally breathe again. So that's gonna do it. If you found this video interesting, and if you think you know about any serial killers, forgotten serial killers from India that you wish were a part of this series, make sure to let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, make sure to drop a like and watch another one of my videos, and subscribe. Okay, bye.